r/AskReddit. Parents of Reddit, what is the most darkling thing your children have said? My niece drew a picture of a man in her room that she kept telling her parents about. He had two different colored eyes, and one was grey. When asked why it was grey, she responded because he can see the storm coming. That's ducking awesome. That's metal as foo-woo-woo-uck. We were driving down a dark, snowy highway late one evening, final stretch of a 16-hour-long road trip. My son, who was around 4 or 5 at the time, was in the backseat and becoming a bit restless. He suddenly covered his face with a blanket and announced loudly, "I don't want to get glass on my face." A few moments later, a pickup truck towing some snowmobiles pulled out in front of a tractor trailer a few cars in front of us and got hit, spinning out into the median. Fortunately, we avoided the accident completely. It was indeed a bit creepy, though, almost as though he predicted there was going to be an accident right in front of us. My 3-year-old daughter was in the bath playing with her toys with me and laughing. Suddenly her face deadpans. She looks me in the eye and tells me in a serious little voice, "Mummy, if you bit and ate all my fingers off I wouldn't love you anymore. So you can still eat some, just not all." Setting boundaries. I like it. My 6-year-old daughter in the passenger seat a few days ago looked at me and said, "Dad, when I'm 7 I'm going to kill you." No, wait, when I'm 8. I had to ask, "So how are you going to do that?" She smiled and said, "I'm gonna drive over your head with this car. I shall see if you're still alive in 2 years. Remember, 2 years. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She tells me that a red man comes into her room at night through her window. His name is Consequences and he's mean to her. She said he hurts her and stares at her while she is in her bed. She says that he comes in a spaceship with other red men. I have no idea where she would get the material for this story, and she really believes it. I've locked her window for her and pulled the blinds, all in an attempt to convince her that no one is getting in through her window. Sometimes, in the morning, she'll say it didn't work. Mama, Consequences got in last night again. I hope it's a phase and it will pass. My 4-year-old son said, "Daddy, I want to drill into your tummy, crawl inside and eat your dinner." The food was okay, but I didn't think it was worth that much effort. Someone's been eating strawberry smeagol's. I see demons. I see demons. When my niece was around 3 or 4 years old, she told me she used to have a baby but it drowned. The baby was called Peanut Butter, but still. Asking kids what the names of things are is 100% comedy gold. We having a digging area on the playground at my school, and I always ask the kids what the names of the bugs they find are. The most recent was an earthworm named Fireball. Dude, that's an awesome name for a worm. Let's see if I can go for 2. When I was about 3 we had a cat that had stillborn kittens. I asked my father if we could make crosses for them, which he did. As he was making them I asked, "Aren't those too small?" "Dad, what do you mean?" "Me, aren't we going to nail them to them?" "Dad," after several moments silence, "we're not going to do that." Me, oh, reddit.com link. Oh holy hit, I imagine your dad's face just melting into a complete "what horror have I wrought?" look. My daughter was about 2, I was giving her a bath. At the time, I was in the beginning of a mental breakdown due to marital stress. One of the things I tend to do is sort of live in a different world in my head while in real life, I'm on autopilot. So, my little world involved a sort of ritual use of a sword. I was playing a scene from that in my head while bathing my daughter. While I was standing her up, she asked, "What's the long knife?" I froze for a moment, and just said, "It's a sword." I didn't say anything else, and from there on in, I tried really hard not to be in that world around her anymore. When my son was small, I was talking to him about growing potatoes. I described how you bank up the earth around them as they grow, and he said, "I used to do that when I was an old man." Yes, when my sister was around 3 we drove past an old tennis club, run down and no longer being used. When I was old I played tennis there. Kids have such a weird idea of time. Like they always refer to when you, adult, older sibling, were little and they were big. My son was telling me a story the other day about when he was big and I was in his uterus. My friend's 7-year-old kids pretended to put me in jail. Our conversation went something like this. Me, What did I do? Forget to brush my teeth? Didn't do my homework? Huh? You murdered a 23-year-old woman while she was jogging in the early morning. Me, comma. When my cousin was 2 years old or so, her mom got pregnant again. One day she went to hug her mom's belly and said little brother sick. A few days later she had a miscarriage. Foo-woo-woo-wuck. My friend's 3-year-old told his mom that there would be lots of blood and mommy will cry about her first pregnancy after he was born. Then she miscarried. The second time she got pregnant he always referred to her belly as them. Then one day early in her pregnancy she had bleeding and after that he referred to the belly as her. She ended up having a girl, and they think it might have been twins but one miscarried. My daughter, about 5 years old at the time, riding with me in my truck. A gnat, mosquito, bug of some kind is buzzing around her and bothering her. So she's complaining about it. So I told her to just swat it. She visually follows it until it's against the passenger window and quickly smashes it with her hand. She then turns to me with the strangest look in her eyes and says it was my first time killing something. Recently actually, my son always says odd things. Usually they're funny but this one threw me for a loop. He is 8. I was telling him how much I love him and thanks for being in my life. He said, I didn't choose this life. I couldn't control how it began, but I can control how it ends. That kid should go into the movie tagline business. Sure, why not? When you turn off the lights, that's when the black circles come. They come down like this, holds his hands in the air above his bed, and they stay for a second. Then zoop, they go inside, slapping the hands to his chest, then, barely holding back tears. I hate it. Maybe a nightlight would be comforting for him? We got it sorted. This was all a long time ago. When I was little, my grandfather, whom I called Pop Pop, always promised to take me fishing. Things always came up, or I wasn't in town to go with him when he went, etc. He died when I was 7 and I never had a chance to go fishing. I had never gone fishing, and have not since he died either. Fast forward 20 years, my wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter. I've never spoken to her about my Pop Pop, and I've never talked about him in front of her. I haven't brought him up to anyone since before my daughter was born. One day, I'm off with my daughter and she's in her room. Suddenly, she comes running into the living room where I'm sitting and says the following. Huh, Daddy, we have to go fishing. We don't live near a lake or anything so this was kinda weird for her to say in the first place. Me. Why do we have to go fishing? Huh, because Pop Pop says you have to take me. Me. Wait, what? Who told you? Huh, Pop Pop says you need to take me to go fish. I'm not really a believer in an afterlife or anything, but I damn sure took her fishing. She has not mentioned Pop Pop since then, and it's been almost a year since that happened. My mom tells this story occasionally. She was driving on the highway in her 20s during a snowstorm and hit some black ice. She spun out, wound up facing the wrong way. While she was spinning, she says she saw her great relative, great aunt or grandmother, can't remember off the top of my head, who died before she was born. She never met this relative, but recognized her from pictures. Unrelated, but as a child, I often woke up in the night having to use a bathroom. It was just down the hall, but I was scared hitless of making the walk, and even more terrified of flushing the toilet because it sounded deafening in the silence of the night. A few particularly scary times, I swear that my grampy or nana, different sides of the family, waited for me to comfort me. This was after they passed away. I am 20. This would have been at age 5 or 6. But I still remember it. Edit. For the first story, forgot to say that the relative was sitting next to her in the passenger seat. Kinda important, I guess. My dad builds houses and when they're done he has them staged for when they go on the market. As a kid he'd pay me to run around the house with painter's tape to mark out dings and scrapes that had to be patched. Every single house he did I swore I could see my grandfather just chilling in a chair, usually in the sitting family room. It was usually a double take moment and he disappeared when I'd look directly at the chair, but I could recognize him. A few years later I was out drinking with my dad and I mentioned how I used to see his father's ghost in all the houses he built, and my dad got serious and told me he used to see the same thing. Thanks for watching, mate. Make sure to smash that like button for more high quality content.